the 5 most terrifying experiments ever done on humans. Science has given us vaccines, space travel, and a connected world. It's one of our greatest tools. But what happens when that tool is used without a conscience? When the search for knowledge completely abandons morality? It's like having a powerful car with no steering wheel. The destination is always a catastrophe. In the name of progress, real people have been frozen, secretly drugged by their own governments, and put through tortures that are hard to even imagine. The line between healer and monster has been crossed way more than we'd like to admit, leaving behind a trail of broken bodies and shattered lives. Today, we're counting down the 5 most terrifying experiments ever done on human beings. These are the declassified, real-life stories of science at its absolute worst. Be warned, the details get graphic and disturbing. Number 5. The Guatemalan STD Experiments. The Guatemalan STD Experiments, when healers became infectors. Kicking off our list is a piece of medical history kept secret for over 60 years. Between 1946 and 1948, the U.S. Public Health Service ran secret experiments in Guatemala. This was like a firefighter starting a fire himself just to test his new hose. The goal? To test how well penicillin worked against STDs like syphilis, but the method was monstrous. Instead of treating people who were already sick, researchers chose to infect healthy people. They targeted the most vulnerable: soldiers, prisoners, orphans, and mental hospital patients. Over 5,500 Guatemalans were part of the research, and at least 1,300 were intentionally infected without their knowledge or consent. The methods were pure cruelty. Researchers paid sex workers to be with prisoners and soldiers. When that didn't work fast enough, they injected bacteria straight into subjects' spines, eyes, and genitals. For those who got sick, treatment was a maybe, and for many, it never came. At least 83 people died during the study. The operation stayed buried until a historian found the documents in 2010. The U.S. government formally apologized, calling the experiments clearly unethical. But for the victims and their families, an apology could never undo the horror of being treated like human lab rats. Number 4. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. The Tuskegee Experiment, 40 years of watching men die. At number 4 is a study that went on for 40 years on American soil. It's become one of the most infamous examples of medical racism in U.S. history. From 1932 to 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. The study signed up 600 poor African-American men in Alabama. 399 already had syphilis. The other 201 were a healthy control group. The men were told they were being treated for bad blood, a local term for different sicknesses. They were promised free medical care, meals, and burial insurance. But it was all a lie. The real point was to watch the natural, untreated progression of syphilis, all the way to autopsy. It was like a mechanic promising to fix a car, but instead doing nothing, just taking notes as the engine rusts and the wheels fall off. The men were never told they had syphilis and were never given proper treatment. Even after 1945, when penicillin became the standard cure, researchers actively withheld it. They even blocked the men from getting treatment elsewhere. For 40 decades, these men suffered as the disease destroyed their bodies. By the time it ended, 28 men died directly from syphilis and another 100 from related complications. In a heartbreaking turn, 40 of their wives were infected, and 19 children were born with congenital syphilis. The study only stopped in 1972 after media exposure caused massive outcry. The scandal led to a $10 million settlement and the creation of modern laws protecting people in clinical studies, including the absolute requirement for informed consent. Number 3. Project MKUltra. Project MKUltra, the CIA's search for the master key to your mind. The horrors on this list didn't just happen in the distant past. Our number 3 spot is a program of secret, illegal mind control experiments the CIA conducted on its own citizens. Starting in 1953, at the peak of the Cold War, the CIA grew obsessed with brainwashing. They were searching for a master key to the human mind, a way to unlock and rewrite a person's thoughts against their will. They wanted to create drugs to control behavior, force confessions, and maybe even create super agents to carry out assassinations. Under the codename MKUltra, the agency operated virtually with no oversight at over 80 institutions, including universities, hospitals, and prisons. The main technique was secretly giving people high doses of LSD without their knowledge or consent. In one infamous sub-project, Operation Midnight Climax, the CIA set up brothels where sex workers lured men who were then secretly drugged. Agents watched their reactions from behind a one-way mirror. Other experiments involved hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and electroshocks. The full extent of MKUltra is impossible to know because CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all files destroyed in 1973. However, a forgotten stash of 20,000 documents survived because they were misfiled. These files, investigated by the Senate's Church Committee in 1977, painted a chilling picture of a government agency that saw its own people as disposable guinea pigs. The stories we're sharing today are tough to hear, but it's so important we don't forget them. If you believe in bringing these hidden histories to light, please subscribe for more deep dives into the darker side of science. Number 2, Unit 731. Unit 731, where prisoners became logs. If the Nazi experiments are the most well-known, then Japan's Unit 731 are their secret and arguably more brutal counterpart. From 1936 to 1945, the Imperial Japanese Army ran a covert biological warfare unit in Harbin, China, led by microbiologist Shiro Ishii. What took place inside is the stuff of pure nightmares. The victims, mostly Chinese and Russian prisoners, but also civilians, children, and pregnant women, weren't even seen as human. The staff called them logs, and they were treated exactly like that, as pieces of wood to be chopped up and disposed of. The experiments were a showcase of cruelty. Researchers performed vivisections, dissecting people while still alive, without anesthesia, to see disease effects on living organs. They would amputate limbs to study blood loss or reattach them to other body parts. Prisoners were infected with plague, cholera, and anthrax to create biological weapons. Some were locked in pressure chambers until their insides burst. Others were used in frostbite experiments, where limbs were frozen solid and then thawed with boiling water or beaten with clubs. They were used as living targets for grenades, flamethrowers, and chemical weapons. Thousands died inside the facility, and the biological weapons developed there killed hundreds of thousands more. But maybe the most shocking part is what happened next. After Japan surrendered, the United States gave immunity from war crimes prosecution to Shiro Ishii and other Unit 731 leaders in exchange for their research data. It was like letting a mass murderer walk free in exchange for his diary. Their horrific crimes were swept under the rug, and the perpetrators walked free. Number 1, Nazi medical experiments. The Nazi doctors, when medicine became genocide. At the top of our list is a name that has become a synonym for medical evil: the Nazi doctors of World War II. In concentration camps like Auschwitz and Dachau, German physicians carried out sadistic experiments on thousands of prisoners. These were organized projects backed by the Nazi regime to advance their military and twisted racial ideology. The experiments were diverse and horrifying. To help the German Air Force, doctors at Dachau used a low-pressure chamber to simulate high-altitude conditions. Prisoners were locked inside as pressure was changed to mimic altitudes of up to 66,000 feet. It was like being thrown from the edge of space without a suit, causing them to die in agony as their lungs burst and brains swelled. In another brutal series, they submerged prisoners in ice water for hours to study hypothermia. Victims were frozen nearly to death before researchers tried to revive them with various cruel methods. At Auschwitz, the infamous SS doctor Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death, had a special obsession with twins. He treated twin children not as human beings, but as biological puzzle pieces to be taken apart and destroyed. He injected them with diseases, transfused their blood, and even sewed them together to create conjoined twins. Many died during these procedures, and those who survived were often killed so their bodies could be dissected. Other experiments included infecting prisoners' wounds with gangrene, exposing people to mustard gas, and performing mass sterilizations, all in the name of racial purity. These acts revealed that the Nuremberg trials showed a medical community that had abandoned its oath to do no harm and became a willing instrument of torture and genocide. From the camps of Auschwitz to the secret labs of the CIA, these 5 stories show the absolute darkest side of science without ethics. They're a terrifying reminder of what happens when people are treated like objects and when knowledge isn't balanced with compassion. Knowledge without a moral compass is like a ship without a rudder, powerful but adrift and destined only to create wreckage. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If there's a case or story you want me to cover, drop it in the comments. It could be the next video.